On the forgotten human colony world of Greyfall, life was hard and unfair. The land was dry, the air was cold, and hope was something most people stopped believing in long ago. In the far corner of this broken world lived a boy named Eli. He was 15 years old. He had no family, no parents, and no last name. People simply called him the Orphan, not because they were cruel, but because that was all he was to them. A boy with no one waiting for him at the end of the day. Eli lived in an old cargo shed near the edge of the settlement. The roof leaked when it rained, and the walls were patched with scrap metal and plastic sheets. Inside, there was a thin mattress, a broken heater that only worked sometimes, and a small box where Eli kept his few belongings. Every morning, Eli woke up before the sun. He wrapped his thin jacket around himself and stepped outside, his breath turning into white mist in the cold air. He did small jobs, fixing old machines, carrying heavy boxes, cleaning broken parts, anything people would pay a little food or a few credits for. Sometimes people were kind. Most times they were not. But Eli never complained, because complaining did not change anything. At night, when the settlement grew quiet, Eli liked to sit outside his shed and look up at the sky. Greyfall's sky was dark and clear, filled with stars. He wondered where they led. He wondered if somewhere out there life was better, if families stayed together, if children were not left behind. Eli had learned early that hopping too much could hurt. Still, he looked at the stars anyway. That night felt different. The air was too still. The wind had stopped. Even the distant machines of the settlement had gone quiet, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Eli felt it before he saw it. A low rumble echoed through the sky. He stood up slowly, his eyes searching the darkness. Then, a bright line of fire cut across the stars. Eli's heart stopped. A ship was falling. It burned bright orange and white, spinning wildly as it tore through the atmosphere. Pieces broke off, glowing like dying stars. The sound grew louder, shaking the ground beneath Eli's feet. People began to shout in the distance. Some ran for shelter, others watched in fear. Eli did not move. He watched the ship crash far beyond the settlement, deep into the wastelands. A flash of light filled the horizon, followed by a heavy boom that rolled across the land. Silence came after. A dangerous silence. Most people knew what to do in moments like this. They stayed away. Crashed ships meant trouble. Aliens, radiation, explosions, death. Eli stood there, his hands shaking. Inside his chest, two voices fought each other. One said, "Stay here. You are just a boy. This is not your problem." The other whispered, "What if someone is alive?" Eli thought of all the times he had been sick and alone, all the nights no one came when he cried, all the days he wished anyone would care. He swallowed hard. Then he grabbed his old coat, pulled it tight, and started walking toward the smoke. Each step felt heavy, the ground was rough and uneven. The cold bit into his skin, his mind screamed at him to turn back. But he kept going, because if someone was dying out there, he could not live with himself if he did nothing. As Eli reached the edge of the wasteland, he saw it. The crashed ship lay broken and burning, half buried in the dirt. Smoke rose into the sky. The metal was twisted and torn open like a wound. And near the wreckage, there was movement. Eli's breath caught. Someone was alive. He did not know it yet, but that moment, when a lonely human orphan chose to walk toward danger instead of away from it, was about to change not only his life, but the fate of two worlds. The air smelled of smoke and metal. The ship lay broken, half buried in the dusty wasteland, sparks flying from the torn panels. Steam hissed from the exposed engine, and the wind carried the faint scent of something burning. Eli's heart raced as he approached. His hands trembled, but he did not stop. Inside the wreckage, he saw movement, a faint shiver, a small rise and fall. A being was trapped. He could not tell at first if it was human or alien. Its skin glimmered faintly blue in the firelight, and its eyes were closed. The creature's clothes were torn and one arm hung at an odd angle. Its breathing was shallow, weak, like the flicker of a dying flame. Eli swallowed hard. Fear and worry collided in his chest. He knew nothing about this alien, nothing about its species, its strength, or its intentions. But he also knew that if he left it there, it would die, and he could not live with that choice. He crawled closer, carefully stepping over twisted metal. His boots scraped against hot shards, but he did not cry out. The alien moved slightly, letting out a low, pained groan. Eli's stomach turned. "I'll help you," he whispered. The alien did not respond, but Eli did not stop talking. Talking made him feel less alone in the dark wasteland. "I won't leave you here, I promise." It took hours to pull the alien free. The metal was sharp. Smoke stung Eli's eyes. His hands bled from cuts, but he pressed on, using every scrap of strength he had. He found a long metal beam nearby and carefully levered the alien out. One arm was pinned and one leg was bent wrong. Eli did not know how to fix it, but he wrapped it gently with torn cloth to stop the worst bleeding. By the time he had moved the alien a few meters from the wreckage, the sky had turned a dark, bruised color. Stars peeked through the clouds. Eli's muscles ached, his back screamed, and his coat was soaked with sweat and blood. Still, he did not rest. Not yet. He looked around. The wasteland stretched endlessly. No shelter, no water, no sign of help. Only him and the alien. Only the cold wind cutting at their faces, reminding Eli of the stakes. If he failed, the alien would die. If he succeeded, he might live to tell anyone about this impossible night. He remembered the sled he had built as a boy, dragging old supplies across the settlement. Quickly, he found metal panels, wooden planks, and old straps. He improvised, crafting a crude sled to carry the alien. The alien did not respond, but Eli did not care. Every step was a struggle. Each movement sent jolts of pain through both of them, but Eli gritted his teeth. He refused to leave the alien behind. Halfway to his shed, a piece of metal snagged on the sled. Eli fell forward, scraping his knees and hands. Pain seared through him, but he pushed himself up. He could not stop. The alien's breathing was shallow, and Eli felt a cold panic creep into his chest. "Not now, don't die now, I won't let you." When he finally reached the shed, Eli was shaking, exhausted beyond words. He dragged the alien inside, leaning against the wall for a moment to catch his breath. The small space smelled of dust, metal, and the faint warmth of life. Eli set the alien down carefully, checking again for injuries. Blood was drying on its clothes, but the worst seemed to be under control. Eli hurried to heat some water and clean the wounds as best as he could. He tore strips from his own shirt and used them as bandages. Every motion was slow and careful. Every touch was cautious. The alien's eyes fluttered open slightly, just enough for Eli to see pain and confusion in them. "Stay with me," Eli whispered, his voice breaking. "Please, just stay." Hours passed. The alien moved a little, breathing easier. Eli kept talking, telling it stories of the stars, of the settlement, of nothing important, anything to keep it alive. He gave it his meager water, shared his small food ration, and wrapped it in his thin blanket. That night, Eli did not sleep. He sat by the alien, listening to its faint breathing. He realized something in that moment. It was not bravery that kept him going. It was hope. Hope that someone somewhere mattered enough to survive. Hope that he could save a life, even if he had lost so many of his own. And slowly, in the quiet of his tiny shed on the forgotten planet, the alien's eyes opened wider. Recognition, fear, relief. It was the first step toward a bond that neither of them could yet understand, but a bond that would change both their lives forever. The alien lay on the thin mattress, wrapped in Eli's worn blanket. Its breathing was steadier, but every movement caused a grimace of pain. Eli sat beside it, his hands dirty and bleeding from the long trek, his clothes torn from the wreckage, but he did not care. He only cared that the stranger survived. Eli did not know this alien's name or his story. He did not know if he was rich or poor, friend or enemy. It did not matter. The alien was alive, and that was enough. He carefully cleaned the wounds with the warm water he had heated over a small fire. He tore more strips from his own shirt to bandage the cuts and bruises. Every touch was gentle. Every movement was careful. Eli whispered soothing words, even though he did not know if the alien could understand. The sound of a human voice, he hoped, might give comfort. Hours passed, and the alien opened its eyes more fully. Its gaze was soft, tired, and full of confusion. Eli noticed the oldness in the alien's eyes, the kind of age that spoke of long years, wisdom, and perhaps loneliness. There was something fragile about him, like a flower growing in a storm. Eli's heart ached. He had known loneliness all his life, and he recognized it immediately. "Can you move?" Eli asked gently. The alien made a faint sound, a soft vibration that might have been a nod. Eli helped him sit up slowly, propping him against the wall. The alien's arm was bent in the wrong direction, and its leg throbbed painfully. Eli knew he could not fix everything, but he could make the pain bearable, at least for now. He fetched what little food he had, a small loaf of bread and a few dried fruits, and offered it. The alien's fingers trembled as it accepted them. Eli smiled, though he was exhausted. "Eat slowly," he said. "You need your strength." The alien tried to speak, making strange sounds that Eli could not understand. He nodded, pretending to comprehend because he wanted the alien to feel safe. He realized that he had never done anything like this before. He had never saved someone else. He had never carried the weight of another life on his shoulders, and yet, for the first time, he felt alive. Night fell and the wind outside grew colder. Eli wrapped the alien in the blanket once more and sat close, using his own body heat to keep him warm. His stomach grumbled, his hands ached, and his eyes burned with fatigue, but he did not move. Not yet. He was afraid that if he left for even a moment, the alien might slip away. For a long time, they stayed in silence. Eli listened to the alien's uneven breathing, each sound a fragile sign of life. He remembered all the nights he had cried alone, wishing for someone to care. Now he was the someone. Now he had a purpose. By morning, the alien could move slightly on his own. Eli helped him to a chair and cleaned the small cuts on his face. He could see gratitude in the alien's eyes, mixed with pain and confusion. Eli felt a strange warmth in his chest. It was the first time someone had looked at him like he mattered. Eli's thoughts wandered to the settlement. People would never understand why he risked his life for a stranger. They would call him foolish, but he did not care. The alien's life was worth any danger, worth any hardship. As the day passed, Eli noticed more about the alien. His clothes were made of a material he had never seen before, soft, shimmering, clearly expensive. His skin was pale blue, delicate yet strong. His face held wisdom, sorrow, and a quiet dignity. Eli wondered silently, who was this stranger, what life had he lived, and why had fate thrown him into the wasteland of Greyfall? Eli spoke gently, sharing stories of his life, of the stars above, of the settlement and its small wonders. The alien listened, his eyes occasionally flicking with recognition, though he said little. Eli did not need words. He knew that actions mattered more. Every warm drink, every bandaged wound, every quiet presence beside him was proof that someone cared. By the end of the day, the alien was stronger, able to sit without grimacing. Eli allowed himself to rest nearby, still keeping a protective hand on the stranger's shoulder. He realized that saving this alien was no longer just a choice. It had become a responsibility, a promise made in the quiet of a crashed ship on a lonely world. Eli did not know what tomorrow would bring, or who this alien truly was. But he did know one thing: he would not leave, not now. Not ever. Days passed in the small shed, and the alien began to recover. Each day, Eli watched him closely, learning how fragile and strong life could be at the same time. The alien moved slowly, carefully, as if every motion reminded him of the crash. He could not yet walk properly, but he could sit and observe the world around him with deep, steady eyes. Eli often brought him food, water, and warm drinks. Sometimes he talked. Sometimes he just sat silently. The alien rarely spoke, but his eyes told stories of long travels, endless skis, and a life far different from the lonely wasteland of Greyfall. Eli could feel the weight of his years, the sorrow in his gaze, and yet a quiet dignity that made him seem taller than his frail body. One evening, as the orange glow of the sun faded behind the distant mountains, the alien finally spoke. His voice was soft and old, almost like wind brushing over stone. Eli leaned closer, careful not to startle him. "Why," the alien began, pausing, struggling to find the words. "Why help me? You have so little. You risked your life for a stranger." Eli shrugged, trying to smile through exhaustion. "Because someone should," he said simply. Because I know what it is to have no one, and because I couldn't leave you to die." The alien studied him, eyes narrowing slightly. He spoke words Eli did not understand, a language strange but musical, full of long vowels and soft clicks. Eli nodded, pretending to understand, because he realized it did not matter if he knew the meaning. The alien's tone held curiosity, respect, and a quiet relief that he was alive. As the days continued, the alien started to move more, slowly testing his strength. Eli helped him stand, supporting his weight carefully. He noticed that the alien's hands were surprisingly strong, his fingers long and precise, as if they had built or created many things in his long life. Eli's curiosity grew. Who was this alien? Why had he been alone in a crashed ship? Why had fate thrown him into the wasteland of Greyfall? The alien, whose name Eli now learned was Vaylor, watched the boy with quiet fascination. He had seen many humans in his long life, but he had never seen one like Eli. A human so small, so fragile, yet so brave, so kind, and so determined. In all his years traveling the galaxy, dealing with politics, wealth, and power, he had never seen true selfless care. Vaylor noticed how Eli shared his meager food, how he gave away his only blanket to keep him warm, how he spoke softly even when the boy was exhausted. Vaylor saw the quiet strength in him, the kind of courage that did not roar but persisted in small, meaningful actions. One night Vaylor asked again in his soft, broken voice, "You risk your life for me? Why?" Eli looked down at his hands, scarred and calloused. "Because I know what it is to be alone," he whispered. "Because if someone had left me, I would want someone to care. You're alive, that matters." Vaylor's eyes softened. He realized that this human, this small boy with nothing, had something more valuable than wealth or power. He had compassion, courage, and heart. He had something Vaylor had never truly seen in the rich, powerful beings he had known. Days turned into a week. Vaylor regained enough strength to sit without support and even stand for a few moments. He began to talk more, asking questions about the settlement, about Greyfall, about Eli's life. He wanted to understand the boy who had saved him, who had risked everything for a stranger. Eli spoke cautiously, not wanting to seem boastful. He told small stories, fixing machines, sneaking food from the settlement, watching the stars at night, dreaming of something better. Vaylor listened, his eyes wide with admiration and something else, something Eli could not name yet. One afternoon, as Eli helped Vaylor move to a chair near the small window, Vaylor looked out at the horizon. He touched Eli's shoulder lightly, a rare gesture of trust. "You, human, are rare," he said. "In all the universe, rare." Eli blinked, unsure how to respond. He had lived his life knowing he was small, unimportant, and forgotten. To hear someone, anyone, say he was rare, it shook something inside him. And Vaylor, lying there in that quiet shed, knew something too. He knew that humans, even weak, fragile humans, had a strength no wealth, no weapon, no empire could buy. The strength to care, to act, to choose kindness when the universe offered nothing but cruelty. For the first time since the crash, Eli and Vaylor felt a connection, not as human and alien, but as two beings who had been alone and had found each other in the wasteland. And that connection would change everything. The quiet of the shed did not last long. Eli had hoped that, for at least a few days, he and Vaylor could recover in peace. But word spreads fast on Greyfall, especially when a crashed ship involves an alien. And in Greyfall, people rarely think about kindness. They think about survival and profit. Late one night, as the wind howled over the wasteland, Eli heard voices outside the shed. At first, he thought he was imagining it. But then came the sound of metal scraping against the ground, and the voices grew louder. They were not friendly. Eli's stomach tightened. He peeked through a crack in the wall and saw a group of scavengers. They carried weapons, rough and dangerous. Their eyes gleamed with greed as they stared at the shed. Eli realized immediately they had come for Vaylor, or for the ship, or both. He didn't know which, but he knew one thing: if they reached him or Vaylor, it would not end well. His heart pounded, but he did not panic. Fear had never stopped him before. He knew he had to act. He ran to Vaylor, who was sitting in a chair, still weak but alert. "They're coming," Eli whispered urgently. "You have to stay quiet, don't move." Vaylor's pale blue eyes met Eli. He understood. Even in his weakened state, the alien recognized the danger. "I see," he said softly, his voice steady despite his injuries. The scavengers banged on the door, shouting, demanding the alien be handed over. "Open up," one of them yelled. "We know you've got him in there." Eli took a deep breath. He remembered the hours he had spent saving Valor, the blood, the sweat, the fear he had ignored. He realized that running was not an option. He would not abandon the alien now, not when he had risked everything to save him. With his heart pounding, Eli opened the door slightly. "You'll have to go through me," he said, his voice small but firm. The scavengers laughed, a cruel, hollow sound. "Just a boy," one sneered. "Think you can stop us?" Eli's hands shook, but he did not move. He planted himself firmly in front of Valor, every inch of his body a shield. "I said, you'll have to go through me," he repeated, louder this time. The scavengers raised their weapons, but before they could take another step, Valor moved. Slowly, painfully, he rose to his feet. Eli's eyes widened. He had never seen Valor like this, fragile, old, yet full of presence and quiet power. Valor spoke in a language Eli did not understand. His voice was low, commanding, almost musical. Eli felt the air change. A strange hum filled the space around them, vibrating through the walls of the shed. The scavengers froze. The sound was not threatening, but it carried authority. Valor raised a hand, and a small device in his other hand glowed. Sparks of light shot into the sky, and within moments massive ships appeared on the horizon. Black and gold, sleek and silent, descending through the night. The scavengers' faces turned pale. Their weapons suddenly seemed meaningless. One by one they fled, stumbling over the rough ground, disappearing into the darkness. Eli's knees buckled. He had never seen anything like this. The alien, weak and injured, had just summoned ships that could destroy them all. Valor turned to Eli, his eyes softening. "You protected me," he said, his voice tired but proud. "You are brave, strong." Eli shook his head, disbelief and relief flooding him at the same time. I just couldn't let them take you," he whispered. I wouldn't." Valor smiled faintly, and for a moment the fear and pain of the night fell away. "Then you are rare," he said. "In all the universe, rare." The ships landed nearby, ready to carry Valor away from danger. Eli wanted to go with him, but he did not know how. Valor placed a gentle hand on Eli's shoulder. "You saved me. That is more than anyone has done in centuries. You deserve more than this world can give." Eli swallowed hard, realizing that everything he had done, every sacrifice, every step into the unknown, had not gone unnoticed. He had saved a life, and in doing so, he had shown a strength far greater than any weapon. As the alien fleet prepared to leave, Eli stood beside Valor, small but unbroken. The wasteland was silent again, but now it felt different. Safe, promising, full of possibilities he had never imagined. And Eli understood something deeply. Humanity's strength was not in wealth or weapons, but in courage, compassion, and the choice to stand for others, even when the odds were impossible. The alien ships hovered silently above the wasteland, their lights casting long shadows across the sand. Eli stood beside Valor, still trying to comprehend everything that had just happened. Only hours ago, he had been dragging the alien through dirt and fire, fearing for his life. And now, massive ships had appeared, scattering the scavengers like leaves in a storm. Valor, though weak from his injuries, stood tall with quiet dignity. He looked at Eli with an intensity that made the boy feel small and important all at once. "You saved my life," Valor said, his soft, melodic voice carrying across the cold night. "And that is rare, very rare." Eli shook his head, his hands trembling. I just did what anyone should do," he said. "I couldn't leave you there. I couldn't let you die." Valor studied him, eyes full of an emotion Eli could not name. Then, with a calmness that seemed to hold the weight of centuries, the alien said, "Ask anything, Eli, anything at all. I will give it to you." Eli blinked, unsure he had heard correctly. "Anything," he asked. His mind raced. Food, a proper bed, money, a family. He had lived his life without ever imagining anyone asking him what he wanted. Valor nodded. "Yes, anything you desire. You saved me, and I owe you more than gratitude. I owe you a future." Eli thought quietly. He remembered the nights he had cried alone in the cold shed, the empty meals, the fear of being forgotten. And he remembered something else, the hope that had never left him completely. He wanted more than comfort, more than money. He wanted a place to belong, a life where he would not be invisible. I don't want money, he said finally, his voice soft. I want a place to belong, a home, somewhere I'm not alone. Vaylor's eyes softened, glistening in the light of the hovering ships. Then that is yours, he said. A home among the stars with people who care for you. A life you deserve not as a servant but as family. You will never be alone again, Eli. Eli felt his chest tighten. Tears filled his eyes. For the first time in his life, he felt the weight of a promise that could truly change everything. The alien's offer was beyond anything he had ever imagined. A life among the stars. A chance to leave the wasteland, the hunger, and the loneliness behind. Are you serious? Eli whispered. I don't even know how to live like that. Vaylor smiled faintly. Then I will teach you, I will guide you. You have already shown bravery, kindness, and strength. Those are worth more than any education or wealth. You are ready. Eli looked at the alien, then at the ships, their sleek black and gold hulls reflecting the stars above. He thought of the wasteland he had called home, of the cold nights and empty meals, of the loneliness that had shaped him. And he realized something. The universe had given him a chance, and he could take it. I want to come with you, he said finally, his voice trembling with hope and fear. Vaylor placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Then you will. Together we will go beyond this world, beyond fear, beyond loneliness. You will see wonders, learn, and grow. You will belong. The ship's lights glimmered brighter, reflecting off Vaylor's pale blue skin. Eli felt a strange warmth, as if the universe itself was welcoming him. For the first time, he understood that kindness, courage, and compassion were stronger than fear, hunger, and danger. He had saved a life, and that life had saved his future in return. That night, Eli lay under the stars one last time on Greyfall, feeling the cold wind on his face. But the fear was gone. In its place was hope, a promise, a life waiting for him beyond the wasteland, a life he had never dared to imagine. Vaylor's voice whispered beside him as they prepared to leave. Humans are dangerous, not because they conquer or fight, but because even when they have nothing, they still choose kindness. You, Eli, have proven that. Eli smiled through his tears, looking up at the alien, at the ships, at the endless stars above. He realized something he had never truly known before. Even in a universe filled with fear and cruelty, one small human could make a difference. One act of courage could change everything. And now, Eli was ready to step into that difference. Years had passed since Eli had left Greyfall. The small orphan who once scavenged scraps and slept in a leaking shed had grown into a young man, confident yet humble, shaped by hardship and kindness. Yet despite all the knowledge, wealth, and power he now had, he never forgot the nights spent dragging a broken alien through the wasteland, or the cold wind that had cut through him as he fought to save a stranger's life. Eli stood on the balcony of a towering city among the stars. Ships flew gracefully above, and the air shimmered with the hum of energy fields. He had learned to walk among beings from countless worlds, to speak their languages, to navigate politics, trade, and diplomacy. But what mattered most was the lesson he had carried from Greyfall. Courage and kindness mattered more than wealth or strength. Vaylor, now fully healed and radiant, stood beside him. The alien had become more than a mentor, more than a friend. He was family. He had guided Eli through a universe that could be cruel, teaching him about technology, leadership, and the power of compassion. Yet even Vaylor, with all his wealth and knowledge, often turned to Eli with admiration. The small human had changed his life as much as he had changed Eli. One day, as they looked over a bustling market filled with humans and aliens alike, Vaylor spoke softly. "Do you remember Greyfall?" he asked, his pale blue eyes reflecting the setting star. Eli smiled faintly, remembering the cold nights, the emptiness, the fear, and the hope that had never left him. "Every day," he said. "I remember the night I found you in the wreck, the first time I risked myself for someone else." Vaylor's expression softened. "You were a small human with nothing, yet you gave everything you had. That is the greatest strength I have ever known. You reminded me what it means to care." Eli looked down at his hands, scarred and calloused from his early years. "I never thought anyone would care about me," he admitted. But I learned even someone with nothing can make a difference. Even someone like me can change lives. Valor nodded. That is what humanity is capable of. Your species survives because you do not give up on hope, because you do not give up on others. You are dangerous, Eli, not because of weapons, not because of power, but because of your heart. Eli felt warmth rise in his chest. He realized then that his life, filled with struggle, had prepared him for this moment. The orphan who once walked alone in the cold wasteland now stood among the stars, not as a survivor, but as a symbol of human courage, human kindness, and human strength that no empire could measure. From the balcony, Eli watched children playing in a plaza, humans and aliens together, laughing and learning. He saw the hope he had once longed for mirrored in their eyes, and he understood something deeply. The universe was full of power, but true power came from small acts of courage, from choices to protect, to care, and to stand when others would run. Valor placed a gentle hand on Eli's shoulder. "You have come far," he said, "but your journey is only beginning. The world, the universe, they will need you." Eli nodded. "I'm ready," he replied. He knew that he would never forget Greyfall or the night he had chosen to act instead of running. That choice had shaped everything. It had changed a life, and it had saved his own future. As the twin suns set behind distant planets, Eli looked out at the stars, feeling a quiet pride. He had survived hunger, loneliness, and fear. He had faced the unknown with nothing but courage and compassion. And he had discovered something stronger than anything else in the galaxy: the strength of humanity, the quiet power of the human heart. He turned to Valor, smiling softly. "We did it," he said, "together." Valor smiled back. "Yes, together." And for the first time in his life, Eli felt complete. No longer an orphan, no longer forgotten, he had found family, purpose, and a place in the universe. He realized that heroism was not about fame, power, or money. It was about choosing to act, to care, to risk everything for another life. And that, he knew, was the true greatness of humans. As night fell across the city among the stars, Eli stood tall. A small boy who once had nothing had become a testament to hope, courage, and the quiet, unstoppable strength of humanity. And the universe, in its infinite expanse, seemed just a little brighter because of him. End of story.